first thing is this. This is so important. When you make things up, people feel it. We have to have an idea of what we want to do and what we plan to execute. And so, for example, in your plan, you have door knocking, farm, and you have door knocking expires. Part of your plan is education. You were at market statistics, the market update yesterday. And then you have accountability, which is you track everything that you do so that you have exponential growth. Where the truth is, most agents don't track their numbers. They just show up and they behave and they're like, oh, it works, oh, it doesn't work, oh, I had a good week, oh, I had a bad week. Versus, okay, this week I spoke to 100 people. This week I spoke to 100 people. This week I spoke to 70 people. And then if they reported this, a conversation can be had where, okay, well, what happened this week that you spoke to 70 people? Oh, well, I was in this class and it got in the way of, but now I know what I could do differently, that I could take a class that takes up half my day and I could still make up the contacts for that day. Another reason that we track our numbers, which would fall under accountability, would be the amount of appointments we go on. And so if we went on two, and we went on one each week 1, week 2, week 3, what we could analyze here is, hey, what happened this week that you only set one appointment that you sat on? You first knowing that you have multiple pillars in your business is step number 1. Then it's taking your actions and adjusting them based on A/B testing. Hey, I've been door knocking expireds in the evening. Let me start door knocking expireds in the morning. Small sample size. Well, let's see what happens if we do it for 2 months. Or 3 days a week and then 3 days a week. 3 days in the morning, 3 days in the evening, vice versa. Because your farm door knocking is long-term results. And if you have a short tail, you can hit something fast. If it's a long tail, it takes a while to move to hit something. It's a long tail approach to generating consistent business. That's your door knocking of the farm. And what we talked about on Monday was, hey, I now want to call people, or not call, I want to hit people that are farther down the funnel. And so this absolutely has to take priority, or at the more efficient hours to where you're going to get people at the door. But this can never go away. Can never go away. It's part of what has been successful for you this whole time. So it's never an or. It's an and then we A/B test it over a prolonged period of time with a laser focus on, we still need appointments. So this is the flow. We have a conversation, we set an appointment, we qualify the appointment, we prepare for the appointment, and then we go on a presentation. That's the flow. So I just want to give everyone the preface. Like, this is the model. This is the plan. This is how you sell real estate. Some agents go straight from contact to presentation, and then they learn that this is a very difficult business if you do not have a system. You waste a lot of time. This is a best practice. So when you're having a conversation or conversation with anybody, whether it's an expired, whether it's a for sale by owner, whether it's a referral, we have to ask the questions, which is what we're talking about, to do one thing, get motivation. And so there's a series of questions designed for you to build rapport and gauge motivation. Because as you said, every contact isn't equal. Just like an expired, every contact isn't equal. And a for sale by owner, every for sale by owner contact isn't equal. They're all a contact by definition, but if somebody says, if I don't get my price, I don't need to sell, versus, hey, my wife moved to Oklahoma 3 months ago, and I haven't seen her or the kids in 3 months, and I'm here waiting for my home to sell. Can you come over this afternoon? That's a very different same person you're calling that we're looking for. What I believe I heard you say, and I'm going to give you the angle and then we can go back and forth on this, is it's not about asking all of the questions. The questions are simply a guide. And the guide is to get to an appointment. And so we ask the questions. And the questions, now again, I'm speaking in code, but I'm assuming as I say this that you understand that this is a dialogue that you have in front of you, and you've practiced it, you've role-played it, you've internalized it, and it naturally becomes, whenever you talk to somebody that has any inkling of selling real estate, that you naturally flow into this. Like a great white shark puts the gloss over its eyes and just goes and knows what to do. We have to get to that point, which is why a portion of our day, every day, has to be to learn how to be a salesperson. It has to be to learn how to ask questions. It has to be to learn how to naturally flow into this behavior. Perfect. So the order of questions don't matter. It's simply, can I find the gap? And the gap is the same as motivation. What is their motivation? What are they trying to do? What is their gap? And can I solve that gap? When we solve the gap, not solve it, but propose that I recognize that you have to move to Oklahoma. I recognize that you aren't in Oklahoma. If there was a way to get you to Oklahoma and put more money in your pocket, would it make sense that we meet? That's found a gap, and then I close for the appointment. So whether you're door knocking, belly to belly, or it's a random call in a TCPA compliant manner, if it's a random call, it's stranger to stranger. But there has to be a gap, which is also a pain. There has to be a pain. And so let me use a horrible example. If someone wants to buy a Rolex, is there a pain in, I want to walk into a jewelry store and I want to buy a Rolex? Is there pain there? Yes or yes? Yes or no? Well, if you have the money, like you can afford it, but is there pain in, hey, I want to buy a Rolex? No, there's no pain in that. Yet, if somebody walks into a jewelry store and says, I want to buy a Rolex, and you find out that they just lost their Rolex and they're going to a business conference, and they absolutely, from their ego standpoint, wants to have a Rolex on their wrist when they go to this event this weekend, have we uncovered a bit of pain? That's all we do by asking the questions. Buying a Rolex, okay, cool. But when we uncover, oh, they just lost theirs, they could afford to buy another one, they're leaving this weekend on a guy's trip, and they can't show up with an empty wrist. That's the purpose of asking the questions. And the skill comes into, are they blowing a smoke screen? Is it an objection that they have? Is it a condition? And how do we resolve that is the evolution of the skill of a professional real estate agent. We then go into, so this is on a Wednesday. We have two options the moment we set the appointment because we notice that there's motivation. We can flow right into pre-qual immediately, or we can schedule a time so that I could be best prepared. There's a couple questions I need to ask you. Would you have an extra 5 to 7 minutes now? Or would tomorrow prior to our appointment on Friday make more sense? You get to make that choice. This is excellent systems conversation we're having right now. Yep. It's excellent. You get to make that choice of your pre-qual. Is it immediately after you set the appointment? Is it the next day? Or is it the morning of? Now, I would do it as soon as possible. And the reason I would do it as soon as possible is because we're solidifying our professionalism. We are deciding if we're going on a qualified appointment and we could cancel it right there at the pre-qual. And it gives me more time to prepare for the appointment. Like, the worst thing to do is set an appointment and think you have an appointment, and so you egotistically, not you, in general, stop lead generating. You're like, oh, I got an appointment. And then you wait 2 days to then qualify, and then you find out they're not motivated. So I like flowing right into the pre-qual, if I can, naturally in a flow. Hey, so I could be best prepared. There's a couple questions I'd like to ask you. Because I don't want the false prophecy of I have an appointment. I want to know if I have a bona fide qualified appointment. Which this right here is a skill that takes time, energy, effort, at-bats to figure out. Making contacts every day is a skill. Repetitious boredom of just speaking to 20, 25, 30 people every single day, 5 to 6 days a week, every single week, is a skill. Being able to set an appointment, like actually listen, actively listen, ask the questions, find gaps, find pain, actually close for an appointment, is a skill. Skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, presentation, completely different skill. 4, you could be excellent at this. It's awesome. That's step number 1. Then, the purpose of this class today is, what are you hearing? What are you hearing out there so I can help you close so we can move to prequel? That's the whole purpose of this class, is you're playing in the mud. Let me spray some water. So what did you hear so I can tell you what I would say there? First thing is this. This is so important. When you make things up, people feel it. There are dialogues for everything. When he says, bring me a buyer, I'll pay you 6%, there is a handler for that. This isn't at you. This is on the internet. I'm going to be talking to everybody. This isn't about you. This is about the example you gave me, and I'm sharing it. So the moment someone says, bring me a buyer, if you say anything other than handling that situation, they're going to feel it, and you're going to start talking shit, which is what most real estate agents do when they don't know what to say. And when we talk shit, they feel it, and they're like, I hate real estate agents. This has nothing to do with you. This is our industry. How you say something matters. Have you ever been pulled over by a police officer? When they pulled you over and they walked up to your car, did they go, oh, license and registration, please? License and registration, please. Because they are an authority. I am 99.5% sure that as you had that conversation, you were not speaking in authority to him. You were speaking in, well, I'm asking the questions, and I think you should do this. And so the moment you don't have authority, they're coming right at you, which is why he stopped talking to you. Because how you communicated with him was naturally passive. And again, this isn't you, this is everybody who telephone prospects at the beginning, which is we speak from an insecurity because we're not comfortable in what to say, which is okay. You had the at-bat, which is the beautiful part. And I'm explaining what happens. That's all. I'm just explaining why he stopped taking your call. It's because he does not look at you as the authority, which is why I raise my voice the way I am. Like, I'm coming with energy. You guys feel that? Energy is transformed or transferred. And I ask, how are you transforming their energy that you are the authority, that he should pay you $75,000, which would only be 3% of that purchase price. You guys get that? He offers, I'll pay you 6%. 3% is $75,000 in this example. And I'm going to talk to him like this because he needs me. And if he doesn't feel that he needs me, why would he take my call? Why would he talk to me? And so let's go back to the psychology of what we do here. Hey, look, every agent is calling you to list your home. Truth is, you said that the kids moved out, you got the property yourself and that you want to move to upstate Florida. You want to move. As a professional real estate agent, it would be my pleasure to communicate with you about that. No pressure. And yet, if you knew where you would want to move, it would make this so much easier. Because he has no gap, because he has nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. So what? You list this house and you do the best job ever and you sell it? Okay, so then why hasn't he moved? If he truly wanted to move, then he would move. But it's all smokescreen. He's here for a reason, and that's the conversation is what I'm trying to say, is it's not about going down the questions. It's about the moment you hear something, you go deep on it. Tell me more about that. What would that do for you? What's your hesitation in that? And when you actively listen to what somebody's saying, you're able to go deeper in it. And I wish Laurent was in here because I did a call with him last week. And it was his buyer who won't buy until he sells his 2 properties in Jacksonville. The 2 properties in Jacksonville that have to sell before he buys down here are listed with a broker in Jacksonville. First step, speak to the broker in Jacksonville. There's nothing else we can do until we connect with the broker in Jacksonville. So I connected with the broker in Jacksonville who has both the properties listed, and he said both properties are overpriced. The buyer, or the seller, which is our buyer, won't drop the price. So now the only conversation we have in representing the buyer is to help the listing agent in Jacksonville communicate with our buyer to understand that the market is not what he thinks it is. And the only thing that matters is why on God's earth does he want to buy real estate in South Florida? Because if he doesn't have a burning, crazy desire to buy real estate in South Florida, what won't he do? He won't drop the price to meet the market's expectations in Jacksonville. But the average agent will go, oh, well, let's go show you property, and let's go do this, and where do you want to buy, and what do you qualify for, and what? Because that's what the script says. But actively listening. So then I get on the phone with the buyer, the seller for Jacksonville, and I say, why? I get that you want to sell that. I respect all that. We're going to know what we're going to net, but why are you buying in South Florida? What's important about moving to South Florida? What's important about doing it? Well, I own a tire shop and I travel every single week and blah, 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 blah. Cool. So I get that, but when you find the right property, what should it be? I want a property that I could do a bunch of work to. Okay, so you want a property you could have sweat equity in, that you can renovate and do it yourself. And yeah, that's the way I bought these 2 properties in Jacksonville. I did all the work. Cool. So other than having a place to live, what's important about buying real estate here in South Florida being close? And he said, I'm buying it for my kids. And I said, this is important because if Laurent was in here, he would explain this. So I said, oh, so you're buying it for a legacy for your kids? No, I'm not. Okay, so you're not buying it for your kids. Oh no, I'm buying it so my kids can have it after I pass. Oh, so it's a legacy for your kids. And he started fighting me on that word. Again, I heard his friction. And I said, you're absolutely right. It's not a legacy for your kids. You are buying it for your kids so after you pass, they'll have it. Yes, that's what I'm doing it for. Perfect. Actively listening that I don't need to be right here. We went 3 times in a circle around that, backed off. But that's what I mean by actively listening. And I don't have to be right. I just have to know how much pain he has in keeping this property. Because that's what I heard him say, is I'm the only one in the property, it's too big, I have other properties, I need to move. And so you then said he was thinking of renting. Awesome.
It doesn't make the money, he just don't want it.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. I get it, but it's bullshit. So what I hear you saying is that it's not about the money, but you don't want to hire a real estate agent. Okay? And so what it sounds like is you had a really bad experience. What if This time was not like last time. It goes back to a saying that I share all the time: all dogs don't bite. Anyone in this room, have you ever been to a restaurant and had a bad experience? Yes or yes? Yes. Have you ever gone back to that restaurant and had a great experience? Yes. This time is not like last time. When you can connect their reality with an example, you have a chance to change the way they're thinking. I'm not saying you're wrong. I got to work with real estate agents all the time. I don't blame you for hating them. I got to work with them. And then they'll giggle a little bit, and now we got them from ripping my face off to giggling a little bit, because humor sells. But again, this is what psychology of this class is all about. You bringing this example and me giving you guys ammunition to just see that there's other ways of doing this. That there is the script, there is the dialogue, then there's zingers and ways that you can adjust to get to the gap, to find out their pain, to then come up with strategies to set appointments. So you did great.
I just don't know how to continue.
You don't. You move on. Yes, it's like the guy who meets a girl at a bar and she gives him her number, they go on a date, and the date doesn't go very well, and he shows up at her door every single day. Let's move on. Who calls for sale by owners in here? How many are there a month? Roughly, how many is there a month?
100.
Yeah.
Move on. Here's another, same example, I'm gonna give you perspective. One of the hardest things, and I mean this, one of the hardest things for us to do as real estate agents is learn when to cut the line, to learn when, right, Michelle? When to fire a client. It's one of the hardest things. Oh my God, I showed them so many properties. Oh my God, I spent so much time. Oh, if I just show them one more list of properties, they might write an offer. I can't. Respect your time, respect your energy, and respect your skill set in trusting the system. That wasted energy, you could move on to someone else, boom. And that's the beautiful part of you never know what the next contact can be. You never know. So now you're throwing all this energy at this guy who's not taking your call anymore. Chalk it up as, I could have done something different. I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I've learned some new little tactics, and I can adjust for the next time someone says, bring me a buyer. You fought logic with logic. So write this down. Logic makes them think. Emotion makes them act. When someone is in logic, you have to get them into emotion to get them off center, so then you could come back with logic to then get them to move. Think of a toddler, and you have these little blocks that are circles and squares, and they fit into, and then a toddler takes a round peg into a square hole. Slamming it, slamming it, slamming it. No matter how hard, does it ever fit? No, and that's what we're doing here, is we're slamming, oh, I'm gonna overpower you, versus, oh, let me become a round peg, so I can adjust into the round hole. And that's exactly what he said. We gotta step away, get them into emotion, which is talking about this, and then what's the next logical step? So the approach, which is what you're talking about, is tone, rate of speech, confidence, control of conversation. Off the top of my head, that's the approach. And this goes back to mimic, mirror, match. And so you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that the approach is part of this. Telephone prospecting, you have less than 3 seconds to get tribal with whoever it is you're talking to. Within 3 seconds, they've already put up a guard and are on the offensive, or they'll hang up. Your goal is to have people say to you, you know what, I hung up on so many people today, and I just don't know why I'm still talking to you. Something about the way that I'm staying on the phone with you. When you get that, you know you've mastered this. And for those of you that have seen me on the phones, you've heard people, I can't get them off the phone. I'm just trying. Please just hang up the phone. They just literally stay on the phone with me because I'm in their tribe, because I can mirror how they want to be spoken to, which is the example I shared with this guy, which it was frictional, by the way. It was very frictional with this guy. He was fighting me over the word that he's willing to do a price adjustment. He kept drilling me on what price. I'm like, I don't sell real estate in Jacksonville. It's like, well, you're the one that said I need to drop the price. And I'm like, don't fight me. So it was pretty frictional. But I realized that I was getting out of rapport with him. And so my adjustment had to happen immediately there. And there's a variety of things that I was trying to get off the phone too, because I just got into my driveway and like I was not in my, I should be in an office, standing up with my notes in front of me there. And I was in the car driving home and then pulling into my driveway. So there was a lot of reasons why that went the way it did that I can analyze what went wrong and why it went sideways the way it did, which is important. Here's the handler. We'll end on this. I love that you're willing to offer 6% to get me off the phone. And yet, may I ask you a question? If we professionally market your property, handle inspection, appraisal, keep a deal together, deal with the title company, handle any issues that come up, and provide the greatest experience you've ever had, and lower your stress level, would it be worth us meeting? Would it be worth a meeting? And that's all we're trying to do is just get in the door. Versus, no, you don't understand. Your pictures suck, and I could do better. Oh, you don't understand. You're on Zillow, but you're not here. That's combative. We have to get them into a gap. And the gap is, the experience you had will not be like this time. And that's how you solve it. And it may not work, but I know round peg, square hole sure is not going to work, which is telling them how bad they are and what they don't have. I know that will not work. So going full circle to the approach and what comes out of our mouth, absolutely vital. And knowing when they say bring me a buyer, you immediately go right into, I love that. God, thank you. You should never say anything that is not on the dialogue.